everybody. I give this run a D-. I hate this run today. I'm not happy about it. It's Monday. I had yesterday off, and this morning I felt like I got hit by a truck. I did literally nothing yesterday. I worked, which is sitting, taking photos on the computer and reading in Thai and stuff like this, writing anchor posts, and Kevin and I are trying to get the Muay Thai library session up, and his computer crashed, and it's just it's a lot of stress, but none of it is physical. And I woke up just feeling absolutely fucking smacked by a truck, and I'm not liking this run at all whatsoever. I'm late. I would be getting home in about 20 minutes. I'm not gonna be home for another hour, so it's rough. But I'm doing it. You just do it. So I was at Rambaa's clinching, and I clinched with a couple of his kids. I don't know all of their names. M16 I know, Naksu I know, who I normally clinch with. M16's a little bit bigger than Naksu. Naksu's only a little bit bigger than me. And then there's a kid who's kind of in between their two sizes. I don't know his name, but he's actually Cambodian. But he's really good. He has very simple skills, but he is very dedicated to doing them. So he just won't be interrupted no matter what you do, trying to stop him from doing fairly simple things, which is actually really inspiring to me, that you can just kind of spam something until it works, which is a little bit like how Yudkin Pan's elbows work, except that he has amazing different elbows and can get to you from fucking anywhere, and I don't understand how he does it. But so I was watching. M16 kind of beats me up a little bit because he's bigger enough than me that he can kind of just do whatever he wants. I can get into better positions, but I can never actually get into dominant positions with him, which is really frustrating, but it's also really helpful. When I was first learning how to clinch, I was in that situation a lot because I was the same size as the boys, but they were much, much better than me. And then as I got better, they kept getting bigger because they were boys, so they were growing up and I wasn't. And when you clinch with someone who's significantly bigger than you, and you get into that frustrated state of just never being able to get to a dominant position, it's really good. I think people who do jiu-jitsu probably know this, and probably Western wrestling knows this, is that being in a state of constantly trying and never actually achieving is actually really good. Psychologically it's a little bit hard, but I think it teaches you patience. Anyway, I watched, because I guess M16 has a fight coming up, probably this next month, so they're getting him a little bit more into a higher intensity of work. So Rambaa was clinching with him too. I'm man in the middle when I clinch with these boys. It's everyone taking turns with me constantly being the one who's clinching. He had to do that, and he had Naksu, this bigger kid who I've never seen him at the gym before. I was asking Naksu, I'm like, who's this kid? When did he come here? He's like, he's always been here. And I've just never noticed him, I guess. He's pretty good, but he's not as good as the other two, but he's bigger. So it was those two against M16, and then Rambaa jumped in to clinch with M16. And I had a certain degree of joy. It's not Schadenfreude. It's not Schadenfreude. It's not the same as that, but I did have some kind of younger sibling joy in seeing him get beat up a little bit by Rambaa, because he was getting beat up in the way that he beats me up. So it was a little bit of that comeuppance thing. And I actually really enjoyed seeing him fight for it, because he doesn't have to fight super hard against me. He gets tired, which is fine, but I'm small, so he never has to really, really push. He was really having to push with Rambaa, and I was impressed and inspired by how hard he was fighting. Having to see him fight that hard was really cool for me. But they kept going, so then it was the 2-on-1, and Rambaa started talking to me over on the side of the ring, and he's saying something that's really interesting. So all of this was actually a lead-in to get to this point of what Rambaa was telling me at the side of the ring. He was talking about how M16 and Naksu are really the last two boys he has left from his entire gym. He had a gym full of fighters. He said he had 15 fighters, and all of them are gone except for Naksu and M16. Naksu is related to Rambaa, so I don't think he could leave, but families fuck each other over in Thailand all the time too, so maybe he would. But M16 and Naksu are the last of his like 15 fighters that he had. And it's a sad story. I've talked about it before. It's basically that like the kind of loyalty that fighters had towards their gyms of like kind of being brought up by the gyms, taken care of by the gyms, having something in Thai it's called Bun Kun, which is this like gratitude and owing the people who raised you. There's like way less of that in the way gyms work now. And part of it, a lot of it, is not the fighters themselves, it's that parents don't have this. So parents are like, take care of my kid, please, like make them strong, all this stuff. And then once they actually get a name, they take them somewhere else to a bigger gym that can have bigger opportunities, or, you know, will give them better purses or take less of their money because they're a bigger gym so they don't have to take as much. Like, it's never cool, honestly, but it happens a lot. So he lost all his fighters, and he was saying that it happens a lot where when the kids are really little and their fight purses are like 300 baht, 500 baht, the parents never go. Like, Rambaa takes them to the fights, he does everything for them, and then once their fight purses are like 10,000 baht, suddenly they're like, oh, my son told me that he wants me to go, he won't feel good if mom and dad don't come and watch him fight. And Rambaa's like, he has 50 fights that you've never been to, and all of a sudden once the kadua is 10,000 baht, you want to come to the fight. And Rambaa's very fair. When he splits the money, and he's the only one who pays money in order for these fights to happen, he has to pay for gas, for lodging, for food, for travel, all of these things that like get you to the fights. And so he is losing money to bring fighters to fights, and he doesn't like the idea that these kids will give all of the money to their parents. He's like, you have to give money to your parents, that's not wrong. But he doesn't take an even split. He doesn't take like a 700 split. Instead, he'll give 1,000, so 500 to the mom, 500 to the kid, so that the kid feels like they've earned something. They can buy themselves a phone, they can, you know, have fun a little bit with the money that they're earning with all of their hard work. Because if they're just giving it to their parents, they have pride in that they're doing that, but they don't necessarily get any fun out of fighting, and he wants them to have this kind of reward from their fighting so that they stay interested in it. This is a really generous thing on his part, honestly, especially given he's not a big gym, so he has to split the money with his fighters. Like, he can't be like a big gym like Jit Mung Nan that's like, oh, we're only going to take like 10% of your purse, because they have enough money that they don't depend on their fighters fighting so much, because their fighters don't cost anything to them. When you have little kids, your fighters cost a lot, because sometimes they live at the gym, you're feeding them, you might be paying for their school, you might be helping pay for their equipment, you can just pay for trainers, all these different things. And I was saying to Rambaa, it's really good that he was saying that M16 and Naksu are really good kids because they tip out the trainers, whereas other kids don't sometimes. And he's like, they're very generous that they do this, and it's really good. And I was like, your trainers pay a lot of attention to your fighters. Like at Rambaa's gym, they really focus on you. There are some gyms where trainers just are a little bit checked out, and they will hold pads for you, they give you your full rounds, but they're just like trying to make you tired. They're not really invested in you. Rambaa's trainers are invested in their kids, and they train really hard there. So I think that's nice that he has that quality of trainers. He's saying he wants to maybe open a school, like a Muay Thai school at his gym. There's a little bit more of an integration of like Western or non-Thai students and then the Thai fighters to help kind of like support everything, because you can't really support a gym just with fighting. There's just not enough money in it. Again, getting to this thing that Rambaa told me that I thought was so interesting. I did think that was interesting that he was talking about. But he was talking about his two fighters, and he's like, right now they're really young. He's like, when fighters are like 14, 15, 16, they're good, like they have skills and they'll fight. They're like Jaisu, but they don't have any bones, and they get intimidated by fighting older fighters. So like his boys are 15 and 16. At their size, there are are fighters who are like 20 and 21 who just cut weight really well. Like Hippie, when he was like 25, was still fighting at 108 pounds. Like he is just a little dude and can cut weight really well, but he's much older than the guys that he's fighting. This, for Thai kids, is something that really intimidates them. If they're 15 or 16 years old and they're fighting someone who's like 18, 19, 20, they just kind of have this like immaturity that's in their heart. That's like, they feel like they can't fight someone. They're very intimidated by someone that's a man basically already when they're quite young. And I thought this was very interesting, this kind of like emotional difficulty in this age. And Rambaa was like, I was like this too. He's like, I remember he started when he was very little. I think he was like 8 or 9 when he started fighting. But he's like, when I was 15, 16 and I was fighting older fighters, I couldn't fight them. I was just too scared. He's like, there's like a fear of fighting these older fighters. And he's like, so my boys, because they're 15, 16 now, he's like, in 2 more years, I think they'll be really good. And he's like, it's okay when they fight now, win or lose, whatever, like they're just inconsistent because, you know, sometimes they fight someone who's their age and sometimes they have to fight someone who scares them. And he's like, I don't blame them, but I have to wait 2 years for my boys to basically like mature and become young men. In Thai it's called Noom. He's like, they'll be Noom, like finally they'll be young men. And then they'll be able to be more consistent and kind of like have more emotional bones. In Thai you talk about bones, which is like your kind of hardiness or your willingness to fight or your kind of ability to endure difficulty. Hi Harvey. Hi. I know this dog and I don't want him to run into the street. Hi honey. He doesn't like my stick. That's Harvey. So I thought that was really interesting. The kind of patience that Rambaa has as he's like beating on his fighters, and he makes them train really hard. Like I can feel in the intensity whether Rambaa is looking at Naksu or not when we're clinching. When he's not looking, I can kind of like win little positions, or I can pull his head down, or I can throw him on the ground or something. When Rambaa is looking, there is no fucking way that I can get anything on him. And this is something that comes down to like the way he fights me when Rambaa is looking is the way he doesn't fight an 18, 19-year-old opponent. The way he fights when Rambaa is looking is the way Rambaa wants him to fight against these 18, 19-year-old opponents, but he won't be able to until he's more mature, when he's, 2 years older. It's not a size thing. Like, they won't be necessarily significantly bigger in 2 years. Thais have these growth spurts at like 17 to 20 kind of thing. Like if you look at Sang Mani's record, Sang Mani went up 3 weight classes when he was like 16 years old or something, 18. Pranam Tuanlek won 3 weight classes in 1 year as he just had this growth spurt, and I think he was like 19 years old when that happened or something. Like, Thai men have this growth spurt. I think most men keep growing until their early 20s. But there's like a growth spurt that happens. The size may come at that time, but the size is not the important thing. It's like a hardening of the bones. It's like a growing of confidence. And the way Rambaa said it is that when you're like 17, 18, you have a girlfriend, and then you want to show off for your girlfriend. So when you're in the ring, you actually fight harder because you're trying to show off, which is the exact opposite of what every other trainer I've ever heard when they're like, once our fighter gets a girlfriend, they just don't fight anymore. And I was like, this is interesting because Rambaa's talking about his own experience, but he's also talking about his own fighters. Like, he has this fighter who fights on 1, his name is Punluong, who was doing amazingly well. Like, he's winning all these fights, getting bonuses. The first time he fought amazingly well and he didn't get the bonus. And like, there was this big fucking thing about it. But he's really good. Like, he has a lot of skill. He's very like femur, but like he has a lot of skill, but he goes forward a lot. He got caught in his last fight and he got knocked out. But he's an example of this. He's married and he has a little baby. He is definitely showing off and like fighting for his family and like, trying to like put on a show for his wife and stuff when he fights. And so that is something that Rambaa sees as being part of becoming a young man in the ring. Whereas other gyms I've been at and am currently at, they talk about fighters getting girlfriends and then they just go out all the time and they're sleeping with their girlfriend and they want to still have fun and they don't want to train and all these different things. So there's this amazing difference in like Rambaa seeing this as a positive, as like a motivator, which happens, and then the kind of like mean that I've heard all the time, which is that I'll look at a kid who's like 14, 15 and I'm like, oh wow, he's really good, and the trainer will be like, well, we'll see if he can get past motorbikes and girlfriends. He's 15 or 16, and if he can get past that, then he'll be really good. But it's again that same sweet spot of like 17, 18 is when like that's like a prime of when you know whether a fighter's going to be really good or not. When they hit their stride. It's not their prime of like their peak, but it's when they hit their stride. It's like 17, 18. So I thought that was really interesting, getting that conversation from Rambaa. I'm going to get fucking rained on. I can feel it. I apologize for my mood. I apologize for my cussing. My brother is coming to visit. He's in Thailand now. He's in Chiang Mai, and he'll be down here on Thursday. I have not seen him in 12 years. I've not seen him since his wedding. I have not seen his wife since their wedding, and they have 2 kids that I've never met. So I get to meet my nephew and niece, Ender and Athena, in a couple of days. They're 7 and 9. And I'm very, very, very excited, but I'm also so nervous. Like, I haven't had visitors in a really long time, and I haven't seen my brother in forever. And this is the brother who I like modeled myself after. Like, almost all my choices of like what language I would take or what I would do or what sport I would play or any of these things are totally inspired from this brother, my brother John. And we look alike. So it's interesting because now I get to show him my life, like what I do out here. He's a sports psychiatrist. He works with the Air Force with like mental training, fortitude, that kind of stuff. And he was a wrestler in high school, which wrestlers are they're just tough people. They train so hard. The mindset from wrestling is something that I didn't take part in. I never wrestled, but I saw it and I totally relate to it in terms of like what it takes to be a Muay Thai fighter. So my brother coming and seeing that is nerve-wracking and also very exciting that that's gonna happen. Yeah, I was gonna go into an argument I had online, but I hate to argue online. Someone was saying that diesel noise in easy and ununique style, and I was losing my mind over it. So not that. we'll just stay mad about that. All right, I gotta get going and not get rained on. Talk to you guys later.